Okay, so this is problem 10.2.41, and they're asking us to find the vertex, the focus, and the directrix of the parabola, and then they want us to graph it. Okay. All right, so the first thing is that we need to recognize the form that this is in. And, there's four different forms that the parabolas can be in. You can either have the y being squared and then the x to the first power, and you can have positive or negative out here. Those are two different types. And then you can have the x being squared and then the y being to the first power, and then you can have a positive or a negative, and that would be the other two types. Okay, so this one is of this particular form right here. It's in the y minus k squared equals 4a times x minus h form. Okay, and the reason that it's important for us to identify the form is because the directrix and the focus are going to be, based off of what type of form we're looking at. So the directrix, when we're looking at this particular form, is going to be x equals h minus a, and the focus is going to be the point h plus a and then k. All right, and your vertex is always hk. No matter what form you're in, the vertex is always going to be hk. All right, so what we need to do is we need to identify hk and a in order to be able to identify these three pieces right here. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. Okay, so here's what we're working with. So if you take a look at the form right here, y minus k squared, so y minus 1 squared, that would mean that our k is equal to 1. And then over here we have x minus h. This is x plus 6. Remember that x plus 6 is actually x minus a negative 6. So if we were to put it in, the form of a subtraction here, we would see that our h is actually negative 6. Okay, and then in order to find the a, we're going to set 4a equal to 6. And if you just divide by 4 there, then you see that a is 3/2. Okay, so here's the three important pieces that we're going to use to identify the vertex, the directrix, and the focus. And let's just do the vertex first. So the vertex is going to be hk, so that's negative 6, 1. The directrix is going to be x equals h minus a. Remember, this is an equation of a line, all right? So h minus a here, we're going to have negative 6 minus 3/2. And so that's actually just negative 7.5. Okay, and the focus is an ordered pair point that sits generally in front of the of the parabola, and this one is h plus a k. So negative 6 plus 3/2 comma k is 1. Okay, so that is this is 1.5 minus 6, so this is negative 4.5, 1. All right, so here's vertex, directrix, equation of the directrix, and the focus point, negative 4.5, 1. Okay, so those are the three things that they were asking for, and then they also want us to graph this. And in graphing this, we're going to need a little bit more information than just what we have right here to really accurately graph it. You can probably pick out, on multiple choice, the one that's correct from their picture just by looking at it. But if we're actually going to do this on an exam, we would need a few more points because we actually only have 1 point right now on the graph. It's negative 6, 1. We know the directrix, that's a line behind the parabola, and this is the focus is a point in front of the parabola, but neither of these are actually on the parabola. Okay, so what we probably want to do then is just work with our equation here and just get a couple of other points. And by the way, this is a parabola that opens to the side. And the reason that I know that is because we have the y squared, so that's a sideways opening parabola. And then if this is positive, it's going to open to the right, and if this 6 here would have been negative, it would open to the left. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm just going to let x equal 0, and I'm going to find the y-intercepts that go along with this. It'll just help me graph this a little bit. Okay, so if I plug 0 in for the x, then I'm looking at y minus 1 squared is equal to 12, because we have 0 in here, so this becomes, oops, it's not 12, it's 36. You plug 0 in here and you're going to get 6, and then 6 times 6 is 36. Okay. And then we're going to just solve this for y. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So this pops out as y minus 1. And then on this side, we have y equals plus or minus 6. And if this didn't end up being, you know, if it didn't end up simplifying here and you were left with a radical, it would be okay. You would just continue with it. You would just have to approximate what that number was so that you could graph it. Okay. All right, so then if we add 1, we have 1 plus or minus 6. This gives us two different y coordinates that are going to go along with x equals 0. So we get y equals 7 and we get y equals negative 5. Okay, so a couple of points here. In addition to the vertex, we have 0, 7 and 0, negative 5. Okay, so that gives us enough information here to be able to graph this. So let's go ahead and do that. This is just going to be a sketch. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is graph my vertex, which is negative 6, 1. So that puts me right here. And then we can plot our focus, which is negative 4.5 and 1. So right about there is the focus. And the directrix is x equals negative 7.5. So back here. That's supposed to be straight. Okay, and then we have a couple of other points here. We have 0, 7. That's this point, and 0, negative 5. That's this point. So we can draw our parabola through those points. Okay, and that would be it on this problem.